Hey guys, Josh from soccerreviewsforyou.com, bringing you my first impressions plus on-feet video of the brand new Adidas X15 Primeknit. Now inside the box they do include a string bag to go along with the shoes themselves. The string bag is solar orange in color with black strings. You can see it has the Primeknit logo in black going down the side, as well as your Adidas football branding there at the bottom. Other than that, all you're going to find inside the box are of course the shoes themselves. So we'll get these guys out of the box really quickly and we'll take a closer look at the Primeknit variation of the Adidas X15.1 that brings some interesting changes along with, of course, the knitted upper. So in today's video, we are going to go over all of the details on this shoe. We're going to talk tech specs. We're going to take a look at what the differences are between this variation and, of course, the standard synthetic X15.1. We're going to take a look at the weight, as well as how these things fit and feel on feet. So if you are interested in learning more about the Primeknit X15 Plus, please stick around and watch the entire video. If you're interested in a pair of these for yourself, be sure to check out the review page on my website. That'll be the very first link down below in the description of this video. On that page, you will find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $275 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. And with that being said, let's get right into the review. To start things off, let's talk tech specs. Now at a quick glance, the X15 Primeknit looks like a regular pair of X15.1s, but instead of being an X-skin upper, it of course is made from Primeknit. Now that is by far the most significant difference coming from the regular X15.1 into this Primeknit variation. But along with the upper, they've actually made some pretty big changes to core elements of the X15.1 that, in my opinion, make this a much better variation of the X15.1 concept. If that makes any sense, I'm going to explain more in just a second. Now, starting off with the upper, instead of course, being that X-skin synthetic material, which is a thin synthetic, very soft, very flexible, very comfortable against your foot, provides a nice premium barefoot feel with a very, very small amount of padding. In the case of this Primeknit variation, of course, the upper is knitted, which is very clearly seen in kind of the see-through polyurethane coating that they have protecting that knitted layer. And there's a lining material on the inside as well, which we'll take a look at in just a second. But for the most part, this is equally as soft, equally as flexible, although a little bit thicker, as you guys can see by the side profile. So it still is a thin shoe, something that's going to provide more along the lines of a barefoot feel on the ball. But just due to the nature of the upper being knitted and kind of just a softer material in general, there is somewhat of a padded sensation on the ball. It's not overly thin, it's not thick either, it's kind of right there in the middle, but it feels a lot thinner just because of the type of knitted material that it actually is. If I had to compare it to something else, it actually reminds me a little bit of the original Hypervenom Phantom, which might make people a little bit more excited, I should say, about the X15 Plus if you are missing that particular model from Nike. Now, of course, to kind of match up with what else you're going to find on the regular X15.1, you will find the non-stop grip dots scattered across the entire upper on this shoe. A little bit more difficult to see just because of the pattern underneath, but they are still there, even along the tongue, as you guys can see. It's supposed to be a wet control element, not a super noticeable feature on the shoe, I will say, but it is something they have included nonetheless. And then, of course, running through the middle, you do have that kind of chaos graphic, which is, of course, their X-Cage system, which is an extra layer of fused on material, in some cases 2 extra layers. That's just a stiffer, more rigid material, runs from the base of the sole into the lacing system through the midfoot on both the lateral and medial side. So when you pull the laces tight, you're going to notice that this part of the shoe is really secure, locks your foot in place, and it isn't going to stretch on that part of the upper. So when you are making quick cuts and change of direction and putting a lot of force on the sides of the shoe, it's not going to stretch, it's not going to roll over. You're going to get a nice locked in one-to-one responsive sensation. So that remains unchanged coming from the regular X15.1, whereas if you looked at my video on the Ace 15 Plus Primeknit, that shoe feels a lot flimsier when you're talking about the structural integrity of the upper versus the regular Ace 15.1. That's not the case with the X line. Now, moving on to the middle of the shoe, this is where things get a little bit interesting. The laces still run down the middle. You can see it does have a tongue still, and the tongue does have all the cutouts going all the way down, which I'm personally not a huge fan of because it leaves where actually the laces go under the tongue. It's completely exposed against your foot, which I find to be a little bit uncomfortable, especially if you tie your laces really tight. You may run into issues with lace bite. But something I didn't mention in the other video, and some of you guys did point it out in the comment section, is that technically you don't have to lace them underneath the tongue. You could just do it completely over top, and that would eliminate that problem altogether. And especially with this design, the tongue's not actually going to slide side to side, so you can very easily get away with that on this particular shoe, which I'll actually show you a little bit later in the video. Now moving on to the back, this is where things get really, really interesting. You still have an internal plastic heel counter. The general cut of the shoe is exactly the same. And then of course you have your Tech Fit collar, which is actually made from an elasticated Primeknit material as opposed to that kind of stretchy neoprene. And this is where there are some pretty significant changes. And to show you that, I have the other shoe right here with the laces removed. So normally with this Tech Fit collar, a lot of people kind of compare it to the mid-cut stuff from Nike. It's not like that at all. It still has a little lip going around the edge, which is something you really don't notice at all while you're actually wearing the shoes. And then of course you have this part that goes over top that takes up the kind of top of your foot, the top of the tongue area of the shoe. Now you're going to notice that this shoe does not actually have a single tongue, and normally on a regular pair of X15.1s, this collar ends right about here, so it essentially wraps your ankle but does not cover the rest of your foot, whereas on this Primeknit variation, it goes all the way to the bottom of the shoe. Hopefully you guys can see that. It doesn't go right to the end. It ends right about here inside, but it does actually wrap your foot really nicely. It's all elasticated. It's a similar system to what we saw on the Primeknit 2, which had, of course, the 2015 F50 Adizero sole plate on it, which was a shoe that was really, really good. Has nice structure to it, and you get that same sensation when you put these on. You'll notice that they're a little bit trickier to put on in comparison to a regular pair of X15.1s, just because this collar area has a little bit more structure to it, and of course goes deeper into the shoe, but it really does provide more of a sock-like kind of natural sensation, which is kind of what I think the Tech Fit collar should have been in the first place, even on the regular pair of X15.1s with the elasticated neoprene as opposed to Primeknit, which you find here, which I will argue is a little bit nicer. So you technically have two layers of material here through the midfoot, which only increases the structural integrity of the shoe and just the general lockdown sensation that you get when wearing these things. On the inside, for the most part, you do have pretty much just straight up Primeknit, but you will find that there are some extra layers fused on top there just to reinforce everything, make sure it's nice and solid. But again, they maintain a nice level of softness throughout the entire shoe. But that is really, to me, one of the biggest changes coming from the regular X15.1 to the X15 Plus here is the way this Tech Fit collar actually does wrap your entire foot and gives you more of a sock-like sensation, which is originally what I think they were going for. Another big change that to me is going to make the experience with this shoe that much better than a regular pair of X15.1s is the heel liner. Now, instead of being that slippery neoprene material, it's actually just a smooth synthetic leather, and it's kind of difficult for me to show you guys, but it is in fact just a standard synthetic leather heel liner, which grips your sock and grips your heel so much better. You're not going to have any issues with heel slippage like you will find with that slippery neoprene material that they normally put in the regular X15.1. So if you did try them on at the store, you liked how they fit, but you didn't like that your heel slipped a little bit, you are not going to have that issue here with the Primeknit variation of the shoe, which is a very positive thing and something I don't understand why they don't just change on the regular X15.1, because like I said, that slippery material they put at the back, while it's comfortable against your heel, it doesn't really lock it in place very well, where this does not have that same problem. The insole is fully removable. Here is a look at it. It's in a color that doesn't actually match the rest of the shoe. It's more of a red as opposed to an orange. I'm not sure why, but that's how they did it. And it's essentially just a typical Adidas insole, perforations throughout, mesh liner on top, and it's just a single layer of this black foam material. Nothing fancy, but it does get the job done. And then of course, moving on to the sole plate and stud pattern, this is unchanged from a regular pair of X15.1s. Same sole plate with the cutouts, even though there is a plastic plate underneath as well. So these aren't true cutouts in the sole plate, despite on how it may look. Has a nice solid feel to the shoe, a little bit stiff at first, but something that does become a little bit more flexible after a short amount of wear time. And then of course you get the X-Claw stud pattern, which is FG-AG technically. It is best suited for use on firm natural grass. Very similar to what we've seen on the F50 Adizero line for the past couple of years with these kind of angled triangular shaped studs. They dig into the ground really nicely on natural grass, give you that good bite. And like I said, just perform very, very well. On artificial grass, it definitely is more of a firm ground stud pattern in my opinion. Of course, Adidas is saying that you can get away with it, both in terms of performance, safety, and of course, durability. Not my personal favorite stud pattern to actually use on artificial grass, but if you are one of those people that does play frequently on both natural grass and artificial playing surfaces, and you only want to buy one pair of shoes, this shoe technically will get the job done for you, as they are certified for both firm ground as well as artificial grass. So that's pretty much it in terms of tech specs and what's on offer here with the X15 Plus Primeknit. Very exciting changes coming from the regular X15.1. And with that being said, let's move on to a quick weigh-in so we can see how lightweight these guys are. In terms of weight, I thought we'd compare the X15 Plus Primeknit to a regular pair of X15.1s to see if there's any significant weight difference between the two. So I'm going to weigh both versions for you today in real time. Keep in mind they are both in brand new condition, both the exact same size 9 US as well, so this is a very fair comparison. We'll start off with the regular X15.1, throw it on the scale, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.05 ounces, the equivalent of 228 grams. So relatively lightweight and a shoe that has a nice solid feel on your feet. So we'll change the scale back to ounces, pull these off, and we'll throw on the X15 Plus Primeknit variation, and you can see that they weigh in at 8.7 ounces, the equivalent of 246 grams. So that's a difference of about 0.65 ounces, which is not a lot, but something that is somewhat noticeable both in hand as well as on feet. You're going from a shoe that's in the 8-ounce range in the regular X15.1 to a shoe that's more closer to the 9-ounce range in the X15 Plus. So it certainly isn't the lightest option out there on the market. Neither is the regular X15.1. But again, if you did have this shoe kind of on your radar as a potential next pair, just keep in mind that if you really want something nice and light on your feet, these will feel relatively light, but they certainly aren't anywhere near what you're going to find from something like a Nike Mercurial Vapor 10 or other ultra lightweight shoes on the market. Aesthetically, I really like the look of the X15 Plus. Of course, it still has the same general styling that you'll find across the entire X line, with the X logo on the tongue, the chaos graphic through the midfoot, and of course the big Adidas logo right there on the back of the heel. But the upper is visibly knitted, which I think looks pretty cool. The colorway here is basically solar orange is the main color. It's a bright orange, and there's a slightly darker orange shade included in there as well within the actual knitted pattern, which is pretty cool. You're going to find the same 2 shades of orange in the laces as well. Of course, you do have the chaos graphic in orange and black with the orange and black paint splatter right on top, which again is kind of a controversial look. Some people love it, some people hate it. It's something that's grown on me since the shoe has initially been released, and I think it looks pretty good on this particular colorway as well. I really like that it doesn't have the little stripe here or the ring going around the toe box and forefoot area that you will find on pretty much every colorway of the regular X15.1. So a lot of people will argue that that gives this particular version a slightly cleaner look. I really like how the tongue looks as well, and that it does cover up the laces going down the middle. Just makes the shoe look more kind of modern and aerodynamic in my opinion. You of course have your X logo right there in white, as well as your white Adidas branding on the back of the heel. The top of the collar is black in color, and then of course the sole plate is black and orange to match the rest of the shoe, as you would expect. So all in all, pretty good looking shoe. It's kind of a darker orange, but it definitely is fairly bright in person as well. So if you're not looking to stand out, maybe not the best colorway for you, but if you like orange and you like bright colors, you shouldn't have any issues with this particular colorway. So let me know your thoughts on it down below in the comment section. Do you like how these look? Why or why not? And with that being said, let's move on to the on-feet portion of the video so we can get a better idea as to how these shoes fit, and of course what the sizing is like. Alright, so here is a look at the X15 Plus Primeknits on feet. On my left foot I have the stock orange laces that come with the shoes, and on my right foot I have a pair of black reflective wide SR4U replacement laces. If you're interested in a pair of replacement laces for yourself, the website to go to is www.sr4ulaces.com. You find a direct link to that website down below in the description of this video. You can also notice that I laced them up a little bit differently in that I didn't go through the cutouts in the tongue, so it's laced directly on top, so you avoid any kind of lace bite or just having the laces rub against your foot. If that's something that bothers you, you can get away with doing that on this particular shoe because it technically doesn't have a tongue like the regular X15.1. It's just a part that covers the top of your foot and is attached to the rest of the shoe, which is kind of a nice feature here and one that I really like over the regular X15.1. In regards to how these things fit and feel, it obviously does have the same or a similar shape to that of the regular X15.1, but I will argue that these feel a little bit wider on my feet. The Primeknit upper has a nice kind of soft, thin, padded sensation to it. It's flexible out of the box. Really not much of a break-in time required with this particular shoe. They're good to go from the first time that you put them on. I really like the heel liner material in that it's not slippery against your socks, so my heel isn't sliding around, which is really, really good. And I like this Tech Fit collar enclosure that extends into the midfoot as opposed to just being across the top of your foot, closer towards your ankle area. So really, really nice adjustments or improvements, if you want to call them that, in comparison to the regular X15.1 that you have here on the X15 Plus. But in my opinion, it's just a nicer feeling shoe on your feet, and they fit a little bit better as well, especially in the heel area. In regards to width, it is a tighter fitting shoe. There's pretty much no extra space inside here, but it definitely doesn't feel like it's squeezing your foot in any way. They're going to be suitable for most people. And like I said, they are a touch wider than what you're going to find with the regular X15.1, although the way they fit from out of the box is the way they're going to fit for their entire lifespan. You're not really going to find any stretch out of this shoe, so just keep that in mind as well. In regards to sizing, it's the same as the rest of the X line. They run true to size. I'm wearing my usual size 9 US here, and the fit and the length is absolutely perfect. So if you are looking to order a pair of these for yourself, I would strongly recommend going true to size in order to achieve the best possible fit. All right, guys, that is it for my first impressions of the Adidas X15 Plus Primeknit. Expect to see more follow-up content on this shoe in the very near future on the channel. In the meantime, if you guys are looking for more info, be sure to check out the review page on my website. On that page, you will find the high-quality images of this exact pair that I took myself that'll give you a better idea as to some of the close-up details that you won't see in the online stock photos. Along with those pictures on the page, you will of course find buy it now links with exclusive SR4U coupon codes where you'll be able to pick these guys up below their normal $275 retail price. So again, if you're interested in a pair, first link down below, go ahead and check it out. If you have any questions at all regarding the X15 Plus, leave them down below in the comment section. I definitely will get an answer out to you. If you enjoyed today's video, found it helpful and informative, be sure to support it with a like. Subscribe if you haven't already for daily videos on all the latest and greatest soccer gear. You can find all my social media information down below in the description as well. And other than that, guys, hope you enjoyed today's video. And as always, thanks for watching.